So one of the #1 vehicles that we actually install paint protection film on are Teslas. Reason being, the front face is so flat that it's just a rock chip magnet. So what I'm going to do is actually kind of walk you through the process of laying the hood, the fenders, and the front bumper, just so you guys kind of have an idea of what our install process is like. So what we got going on right now, Brad and Trent are currently weeding out the PPF. He's folding up the front bumper right now. What are you folding up?
I'm putting the lower lip.
So the lower lip, and sometimes these pieces do have to be seamed together. Reason for it is high tension, so we want to make sure that this PPF does last. And what we do is whenever we do have to seam something, so basically the front bumper is going to have 2 ends, and then that little middle piece, we actually will meet the seams to where when you feel it, you won't even feel it. There's a difference there. So for every vehicle that we do perform a paint protection film install on, we do use a cut software to where our plotter will actually fit to the exact size of that panel. Sometimes we will extend the edges. It just really depends on the vehicle, what we're able to wrap in. So what you'll see on a lot of factory installs is you'll see a 1/4 inch leading edge on the hood. We don't do any of that. So it's very, very important to wrap every edge that you can, ensuring that you have the maximum coverage possible. All right, so what the guys are doing now, just kind of going over it after we clay barred it. There's still some things here and there, so we're just making sure every little piece of tar, every potential thing that could affect the install. So they're going over it with a fine-tooth comb, making sure everything's nice and smooth. Something I really want to address is many people will ask, hey, well, I want to do a full paint correction prior to laying the film. Well, full transparency, that doesn't make sense to me. A lot of the PPF removals that we've actually performed, I would say at least 80% of them, they're on there tight, and once you peel off that film, you're more than likely you're gonna have adhesive left on the paint, and the overall process to eliminate that, it will scratch it. So at the end of the day, if you do pay for a paint correction, specifically where the film is gonna be, it's kind of a waste of money, because you're just gonna have to redo everything you just paid for again. So we always, we do our best to advise clients, and we do what we would do to our own vehicles. What you finding? Why are there still bugs on it?
Make up.
You better unbake them. How are you looking at it with such deep thought there, mate?
I find these bugs that are baked on.
Why are there bugs underneath the fender line?
There's rocks, there's everything under there.
You got to get a little further, because that film, it's pretty static. All right, so the first thing we're going to do after the vehicle is prepped. Just making sure it's smooth before I get shot. So after the car is prepped, what we're going to do is actually spray the entire surface down. Something that we use, these keg sprayers. It's very, very important, and it's an absolute nightmare in regards to window tint and paint protection film to get as minimal debris as possible. And with the keg sprayer, we're able to get a lot of slip solution on there very quickly, and again, hopefully to minimize dust. So what they're doing is they're taking the squeegees instead of taking a rag, because we do not want to leave any lint on the surface. So we're just doing a quick little squeegee wipe, and we're going to do that on the entire front clip. We're going to clean off the peel board, and this again is another way where, one, if you're just one person installing, I know we have a couple people here, but just want to kind of show you what we would do normally. So what we're going to do is we're going to soak the peel board, and then very similar to the car, we're just going to take a squeegee across it, just making sure when we place that film up there, there are no unwanted contaminants getting in. Soak it, soak Brad. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna unroll the film with the backer still on it, lay it out, squeegee it down just so it's actually planted on there. So as you can see, it's in the perfect shape as the hood. And Trent's just gonna squeegee it just so it stays. He's getting fancy with it. I don't know. Oh, he's gonna lay it back over, Brad. Oh, you're not? Okay. Now, I'm gonna apply it to the car. Walk the film over from the peel board. So whenever you're doing paint protection film, you're dealing with two products. You're dealing with soap, which is the slip solution, and then you're dealing with a alcohol solution that is diluted with water, and the alcohol is what actually makes it tack. So what they're doing is they're going to hit the two corners on the up front, and then up here with the way that the pattern's plotted, we've got to stretch the material down to where it will perfectly wrap that front edge, as well as kind of glassing the entire surface. So it's, in a way, it's very similar to vinyl wrapping. Really want to focus on too, like, yes, you could just go ahead and squeegee all this out, but I always like spreading it, just getting these air pockets out. Air pockets are not good, and if you do not spread it, then you may have some air pockets that you might have to deal with later, and nobody wants to do that. So now that all that's out, now it's just strictly the slip solution. And then once Trent gets this corner tacked, we can kind of go about the most satisfying portion of laying PPF and just squeegeeing away. And it's very important whenever you're squeegeeing, and I'm not gonna act like I don't have this problem, but if you do not squeegee hard enough, you can leave bubbles left behind. At the end of the day, whenever the vehicle is complete, it's okay if there's some bubbles, the sun will kind of dissipate them. But again, it's very important to try to do everything you can right the first time. The thing is flushing out the edges with alcohol. It's very important to do so because you want to make sure all of that slip solution is out. And basically what the alcohol is doing is it's considered a hard tack. So we're just making sure those edges are flush because we do need to roll them over. And if there's any soap remaining, it just won't roll. As you can see, so we flushed all the edges of the alcohol. So because we did that, we'll be able to kind of wrap it over pretty quick. It's very common sometimes that it just needs to dry out for like a half hour or so. Then we go back to it and just make sure that all of the edges are fully tucked and it's secured underneath. So it's very important after a panel is laid to actually wipe it down just so you can see any defects, any lint, things like that, because it's very common for installers to just lay it, don't think about it, move on, and then once the client comes and picks up, they see dirt. I'm not gonna lie, that's happened to us. So we've really implemented, our best when it comes to quality control. So now that the hood's done, the next panel we're gonna do is the passenger fender. So again, very, very similar concept. The guys are gonna tack over there first, get all of that in line, stretch it across, But again, first thing we're gonna do, soap it, squeegee it, make sure it's as clean as possible. So with this being a smaller panel, we're a little more comfortable with doing it like this. So what we're gonna do is kind of peel it up a little bit, and then every time we peel up, we immediately hit it with soap and water. We gotta make sure our hands and our fingers are actually very wet before even touching the film, or else you can leave fingerprints or add contamination. So they're peeling it, spraying it. So now they're gonna lay it on the panel. So again, everything is specifically plotted out for every vehicle. So the sensor or camera right there is already cut out, and we made sure that it provides enough to where we can actually really get in there, and all the film is actually behind the sensor itself. When you're using patterns, it's very, very important to get that pattern exactly where it needs to be. Generally, the software does say, you know, what tack points you should have. Depending on the situation, we may not always go directly by that. But what Trent's doing is you really have to make sure you're stretching the film, because the pattern isn't always perfect. And there's a lot of times that you have to be able to stretch the PPF in a manner that it won't fail, to be able to get it as close to the edge as possible. So as you can see, you can really see, you know, how much attention to detail Trent is putting into where this camera is, making sure that nothing is exposed. All right, so now that the hood and the fender is done, I'm gonna let these guys keep rolling. I'm gonna stop bugging them. But yeah, this is the gist of what paint protection film is, how it's installed. It's definitely the first thing I would ever invest in when buying a new vehicle. The best thing that I can relate it to is you buying a $1,500 phone. I'm sure 9 out of 10 of you buy a phone case, a screen protector. This is a very similar concept. And the beauty behind it is all of this goes on your Carfax report. So when a dealership or whoever is buying it sees that, it shows that you care for your vehicle. And I've had many clients come back to me and tell me they've gotten $1,000, $2,000 more just because it's so well kept. So if you guys are interested in this, you're concerned about what the road could do to your vehicle, paint protection film is 100% for you.